This video is powered by the pros at Pascal Air Plumbing and Electric. Arkansas owned, Arkansas operated. GoPascal.com.
Mike, it's appreciate your time today. How you doing?
Well, so far so good today. Nothing terrible has happened yet.
Haven't been poisoned yet. That's right.
Nobody's gotten hurt yet, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Is that the direction?
That's right.
You can't take a step these days without an Arkansas baseball player.
At least not that I know of.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, that's kind of the theme right now. And gosh, I mean, it was just a rough weekend. There's no other way to put it. They're in position to win 2 games, really. I mean, when you look at how Arkansas teams usually have played this year, they have come through more often than not in those positions with a 9th inning lead or, having 18 at-bats, runners in scoring position on Thursday. I think Georgia played well. I don't think they were as bad as their record showed. And maybe the injuries are catching up to the Hogs a little bit.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question. I mean, up until recently, all we've talked about is, the pitching's an issue. The pitching. Suddenly the hitting is an issue. The team batting average is down into the 280s now. Dropped to around 8 in hitting. They lost that game Thursday basically by not delivering in key situations. But then you lose the final game of the series clearly on pitching. And maybe, you go back and you look at things, maybe if you go one more inning with your starter, then maybe you don't end up with that disaster in the 9th inning. It really were just little things that happened throughout the game that sort of changed everything. I do think that David Van Horn is having to rely on these 3 freshman pitchers. And what we see is it's one thing for them to pitch at home. It's another thing to get up on the mound on the road in a difficult situation. But I don't think anybody could have anticipated the big lead they had, blowing that big lead, and especially in the 9th inning with the grand slam and then the solo home run to win it.
Well, they should be getting Tigert back this week. I know he threw a good bullpen Wednesday, but they felt like they'd been targeting the A&M series from the moment that they knew it wouldn't be a season-ending injury, and didn't feel the need to, maybe that's not the right term, but to rush back by a week. So it'd be interesting to see how he's going to be used this weekend, because there's a feeling maybe there could be a change in the starting rotation, but like you've also pointed out, you're relying on true freshmen, really talented freshmen, but true freshmen, to try to pitch in these pressure cooker moments. And those are moments that Brady Tigert kind of got used to last year.
Yeah, you hope that makes a difference. I had a guy come forward with a question for Ask Mike this week, which I think is interesting. He said, I'm tired of hearing about all these injuries to the pitching staff. What about the guys that are healthy but aren't pitching like they did last year? And he's talking about, Zach Morris and McIntyre and Austin Ledbetter. Morris and Ledbetter have gotten themselves in a position where they just don't pitch much. But McIntyre's being still counted on heavily. And the big difference in him is home runs. He gave up 4 last year. He's already at 15 this year. He's just getting the ball up. And Van Horn said also, when his velocity slows a little bit, they catch up to that ball. He throws high anyway in the zone, but he can blow it past people a lot of times. He's not getting away with that now. And so he's giving up the long ball. I still think hitting is more of an issue than people want to make it out to be. Yeah, you lose a game like that on Saturday and you go, yeah, it's pitching, it's terrible, but you've just got guys missing from the lineup that are important. And then what about Peyton Stovall? What's going on with him? His batting average is down into the 260s again. Went through this last year, kind of people were going, wait a minute, this is a guy gave up a mega bucks not to go to Major League Baseball, and why is he not delivering at the college level? And then he would just caught fire at the end of the year, so maybe he can do that again. But, there are just things like that are hurting them at the plate, where they need some improvement there. They've got to have some people step up. And you can't make Wagner come back any sooner than he's going to come back. So that's going to be an issue. And now you're looking at Josenberger going, well, wait a minute. Van Horn said it. I mean, a hamstring usually takes a while, so probably going to take a while. What are we talking about? 8, 10, 12 games? Maybe.
Yeah, he might not be full speed all year. It takes a lot of rest. Mike, I've been watching a little bit of this NBA playoff, seeing Malik Monk out on the West Coast, Arkansas guy doing well, that 2-2 series. But I thought it was funny. Dylan Brooks, what's the old saying, Mike? Let the sleeping dog lie. Like Dylan Brooks is out there calling out LeBron James of all people. If you're a teammate of him, you got to be like, knucklehead, be quiet, man.
There's no accounting for stuff like that. I see that kind of stuff all the time. I see weird stuff on my phone all the time. I'm looking at it. And I don't know half these people, but apparently there was some MMA guy or some real guy you don't want to mess with outside a bar, and some local guy's just messing with him. And the guy's trying to be nice, but he finally gets right up next to him, and you almost can't see what happens. And he comes up with an uppercut, bam, and knocks the guy out, and then just lets him down and walks away. I mean, why are you messing with people when you shouldn't? I don't know. It happens all the time. That's all I can tell you. Hagen Smith turns and does that thing to the dugout, which I understand why he was upset, but turned out that's not a very good look because they come back and win the game.
What did Brooks do? Didn't he also kind of?
He's like, he hadn't given us 40 yet. I ain't respecting him or something. You just like, and then he's just in there out there at the thing jawing. If I'm his teammate, I'm like, are you going to lock him down? Is that what you're going to do? Then don't make the best player mad. It's like when you had Michael. He's like, we don't need to make Mike mad because he's still got it, And then you got, with Golden State and Sacramento. Great series. I mean, probably the best first-round matchup you got. And so you got an Arkansas guy and Malik Monk, who's he's like their sixth guy, and then Draymond Green's out there punching. Like he's a mess. He's the aging veteran that's getting a little cranky at everything. But I like seeing Arkansas guys do well, so I'm always pulling for Malik.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he took a lot of heat. I had some things to say about that at the time, not about him, but about Marcus, and I've since recanted some of that stuff. I think it's difficult to grow up in this state and we're seeing more of it now because this has been a basketball state for a while now. And Musselman's getting these guys in state, but Mike Anderson, that was one of his big deals, is he kept losing the top guy in the state every year. And it was a little bit unfair because I think a lot of times, and you face that decision, Matt, and you stayed at home, but a lot of guys look at it and go, you know what? I'm not staying here. I've lived here my whole life. I want to go somewhere different. And you can't blame that on the coaches. And I like to think that somebody from your state, like Malik Monk, even though he went to Kentucky, you can say, watching him in the NBA, say, that's an Arkansas kid. So I agree with you.
Yeah, I wish he would have went to Arkansas too, Mike. I do, and being around Marcus, being a teammate of Marcus's. But I've always and even the kids like Mike. We got the NFL draft coming up. I think whoever gets Drew Sanders, I know he went to Alabama, but then he comes to Arkansas. So it's like kids like that, man. I'm always rooting for the in-state guys or the guys that went to the University of Arkansas.
Yeah, Drew is here 1 year, but now it's like he's ours. You can't claim him Alabama. He's a Razorback, so forget it. Yeah, I see where you're coming from.
When he gets drafted, it'll say University of Arkansas. That's true. Yeah.
Well, who else do you think? Who else?
You got Hazelwood, and
who else is going to get drafted? Dalton Wagner, Ricky Stromberg.
Yeah.
Who else are we looking at here?
I'm not sure, guys, but I do think when you look at football recruiting, and we saw a big one this weekend. They got 3 4-stars and a high 3-star to commit, and brought in a kid out of the portal that's a tight end that they needed. This new staff that he's kind of put together, these guys are really recruiting, and now you're starting to see maybe as we move forward the NFL draft becoming a much bigger deal to Razorback football fans. Because for a long time you were just sitting there going, wow, nobody, one guy every once in a while. You'd like to see it the same level as what we've seen with basketball lately. That would be nice.
Well, I mean, football and baseball in the SEC are in this position where Like, that's the ticket to get to
the farm
big
team
leagues.
almost. Like it's
Yes, that's exactly right. I don't have the percentages, but I know it's crazy, the amount of NFL players that come out of the SEC compared to every other league, and it's the same with Major League Baseball. Just on the draft alone, it's not quite like that with basketball, but basketball's a different thing. That's an international draft. It's only 2 rounds. Baseball's 20 and football is 7, and it's all
first 3 rounds matter in football. Yeah, you're making the team if you're a first 3-round pick,
and it's all people from North America too. So it's a different thing. But it just goes to show. And I agree with you. Like you see Georgia, like 9 players going in the first round or something that felt like that, and Alabama, total turnover on an annual basis. Tennessee's going to have a lot of guys drafted right now. And LSU, Ole Miss, the list kind of goes on, and you want to be part of that crowd. And if you are part of that crowd, chances are you're winning more games because talent should win more games. And, the SEC is like NFL junior.
Well, we've seen what that does for Musselman's recruiting. When you look at guys that he's putting into the NBA, then that sells itself. Now, if Pittman can start doing that, there's a lot of factors in recruiting, but that's one of them. You can go into a home and say, look how we developed this guy. Now he's in the NFL. We develop this guy over here, that guy. So it's important. I think it's something that fans can talk about, but the practical reality of it is it does help recruiting. And it's not good when you go a whole NFL draft and there's nobody in it from Arkansas. And we've seen that in the last several years a few times.
But also the last 2 years, let's look at John Ridgway and now Drew Sanders. They come to Arkansas for different reasons, but essentially they were at Arkansas for the same reason, to audition for the NFL. Sanders, so he could play a position that he viewed himself more at, and also, to get away, I think, from the competition for starting roles at Alabama. Ridgway to step up in a level of competition, and he's doing really well. Obviously not a first-round pick, but it looks like he's got an NFL career. And that's what I'm looking at this Varkey's Gums, the tight end commit from North Texas. You're coming here to the SEC to step up. Look, you can get drafted out of North Texas, but there's going to be that thought, well, what about
your film looks better if you're going against Georgia or Auburn instead of going against Amarillo. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Varkey's Gums, Mike, is going to have plenty of opportunities to catch passes this year, a lot of them.
Well, there are a lot of fans scratching their head over that. Say, we got 2 great freshmen. What do we need this guy? What are you doing? Come on. You have. I don't care how talented somebody is. We saw that in basketball. If you haven't been there, done that, you need somebody in that room that has. So you're bringing in a guy that caught 5 touchdown passes last year. The other guys had none. Now, they may get some, but I'm a big believer in especially after watching this basketball season this last year, you got to have leadership. You got to have older guys. You don't have to have a bunch of them, but you got to have some. And I think that's why they went after this tight end. I asked Otis Kirk if they were going after another one, and he doesn't think that they will. There's another. They need a backup center. They need another D lineman. They need another linebacker, maybe somebody else in the secondary. He said when this whole thing is over, if they have 3 or 4 scholarships still left, they might go out and go after another tight end that, doesn't even have to play this year. Somebody you can develop. But I think so far Pittman's done a good job in the portal. I mean, the portal is controversial, but it's been good for Arkansas in all 3 of those sports, football, basketball, and baseball.
BetOnline.ag is your #1 source for all your basketball info, stats, news, and scores. Get the latest odds and lines, including the latest player reports for this year's pro basketball playoffs. BetOnline is always your sports information headquarters this season, as we have you covered for all your sports wagering needs. Basketball, MLB, NHL hockey, right down to UFC and boxing. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way for you to get your betting info, including live betting options and your favorite casino and card games you can play right from your home. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. Be sure to use our promo code BELIEVE to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. That's BLEAV BLEAV. BLEAV. Bet online, where the game starts.